I woke up the next morning to meet Mindy at the storage room on the turtle den floor. That's where the ladies stored the spare traps and the containers for lugging wood and fish. Mindy said that Alex didn't mention needing to replace any traps, so we just needed to grab the cooler and the wood backpack. The plan would be we'd go to check the traps at the lagoon, and next time someone went to gather fish, they'd replace the missing or broken traps. This was done so we didn't have to lug unnecessary weight. After we gathered the fish and crabs, we'd take them back to the seedy tavern. That's where the only cold storage on the island was. After a short lunch, we'd go to the clearing behind the tavern and gather the wood that was needed. Mindy figured it would be about a half day's worth of work, that if we were lucky, we could have enough time to spend on the beach, maybe gathering shells or fruits on the trees there. This was going to be my first time leaving the temple in over a week. Finally, a taste of freedom. I wondered if Mindy would give me the time to go check on my boat. I wasn't exactly comfortable with leaving the battery out there in the elements, especially if this was going to be my only way off the island later on. Didn't want to leave myself without an emergency exit. As we left the mouth of the cave, I recognized the monster den from Alex's video. So that's what it was. They were using fear to keep people from finding their home. Before we trekked down the mountain path, we stopped at the sacrificial altar site, also in Alex's videos. I jokingly asked Mindy if she intended to sacrifice me to Gaia. She gave me a dirty look. She took out a can of Coca-Cola, and to my surprise, instead of drinking it, she poured it over the sacrificial rock. As I was about to ask her what she was doing, Horny crawled out of the cave behind us and approached the stone and started licking it up. Mindy said the turtle gets cranky if we don't give it its sugar fix. I asked if that was entirely healthy for it. Wouldn't want Horny to die of diabetes, would we? Mindy just shrugged. Mindy pointed out the trail markers, which were pieces of colored thread tied to trees along the path. Blue pointed towards the lagoon, yellow the beach, white the entrance to the temple, and red the seedy tavern. They tied the colored thread in the direction of the way you wanted to go. So if you saw a thread tied on the north side of a tree, it's telling you that you're approaching from the north and you're meant to go south. Mindy said that Alex had just put them up to help us learn the paths on the island, that we'd stop replacing them after we got more familiar with it. As we walked to the lagoon, Mindy chatted away. She didn't seem to notice that I was only half-heartedly responding. She talked about her life, where she was born in South Africa, about the peoples, the stories. She said the island was a nice change of pace, but sometimes she missed home. I said that was something that I could relate to as well. But by the time we reached the lagoon, I thought I knew more about her life than my own. When we checked the crab traps, there were none today, which was fine with me because they creeped me out a little. I wasn't looking forward to carrying one in my back. So we gathered 3 fish and put them in the cooler. As we walked back to the seedy tavern, this time Mindy spoke of the boat that I came to the island on. She said working there paid decently, but the man who owned the boat was a creep. She thanked Gaia and Horny, who she called our shelled friend, for saving her. Grateful to them both for allowing her new experiences and a continued life in peace. At the tavern, we put the fish into the freezer in the back, and then we sat down to eat some sandwiches and drink some coffee. Behind the tavern sat the area that they were slowly clearing of trees. I think the plan was to make it into a sort of park and sitting area to view the waterfall. Mindy said that Karen had taught Alex to select smaller trees. The larger trees provided food and shelter for the animals of the jungle. The smaller trees would not grow as tall because their parent trees had already blocked them out for sunlight. If we found a fallen tree, then we were to use that first instead of let the wood go to waste. No fallen trees today, unfortunately, so we had to choose one to cut. We loaded up the wood backpack with our gathered tree parts. Any excess we couldn't carry was left at the seedy tavern to be picked up next time someone had to go for a wood run. If Farah was looking for something specific for a project, she would have come with us to help us select a tree. If we were just using it for wood burning, then what we were doing was fine. We paused a moment at the side of the waterfall to take a look up at the sky. Due to the sun's position, we figured we had enough time left in the day to make a trek to the beach. We left the wood backpack and the cooler behind. No point lugging it to and from the tavern if we'd have to come back here anyway. As we reached the beach, I felt a brief moment of panic. I could see the boat was gone. I had no way of getting home. The ladies had the only communications off the island, so now I was dependent on them. For someone used to being more independent, that realization really hit home. Mindy was oblivious, though. She scoured the sand for shells and pretty rocks and told me to check the trees for ripe fruits. I found a couple of good trees, and she taught me how to climb up and cut down some of the fruit. We added this to the other backpack. After a little while, she said we should head back before it gets dark. I asked her if she minded if I stuck around for a little while. She paused for a moment to consider, then shrugged. She said, "Fine, if you want to stick behind, you get to carry the wood back on your own." I waited about 15 minutes after she had left and then went to go check the boat. Sure enough, it was still there. I grabbed the battery and recovered the rest of it. As I sat on the beach a moment, psyching myself up for the trek back, that's when everything on the island changed.